For the women's 4x1, it's just one of those things. These four women didn't have a lot of time to prepare together, obviously, because some being flown in, Shelly and Sharika not being available.
We're almost at the finishing line. Oh my gosh, the Olympic Games, 3 a.m. wake-ups, the hiccups that we would have had. Tough go, but again, like I said, we have bounced back nicely. Welcome to another episode of Paris Today, powered by Flow. I'm your host, Trishana McGowan. Back with me, sports content manager from the Jamaica Observer, Andre Lowe.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here. I like the new look.
You do? Caught me off guard at that. And also returning, Daniel Blake. He's a sports reporter at Jamaica Observer.
Yeah, you're not too bad.
We're not too bad.
Yeah.
Is it the bob or the blonde, gentlemen?
Oh,
Both?
that's the blonde.
Yeah, it's one of the few gold that we've had this year. So
Don't leave me hanging.
I'm gonna.
So today, we saw our athletes, competed in finals. No medals, but for me, I take comfort in one, as we look to 2025 and the age group of the athletes that were in action. Jaden Hibbert, only 19 years old, finishing fourth, barely missing that bronze medal in the men's triple jump. And also Rashawn Clark, 20 years old, finishing outside the medals, but he was running so well until he clipped hurdle number 9. Very promising, back-to-back championship finals for him at 20 years old. And the 4x100 meters relay for women, they too, finishing outside the medals, 5th position, but I thought that the ladies handled themselves as best as possible. Daniel, what you made of, just today performances?
I think today wasn't a bad day. It was slightly disappointing, but I wouldn't say it's a bad day for Jaden to do 17.61, just missing out on the bronze medal by 3 centimeters. But if you even look on the trajectory over the last 3 years, 17.61 would have guaranteed him a silver medal at Tokyo, in 2022 in Eugene, and last year in Budapest. So it shows that, unfortunately for Jaden this year, that the field kind of stepped up their game. Obviously, he in the heats after the preliminary round said that, he was lucky to even get to the final because of how he was feeling. So, still very young. Yeah. He has a lot of time and space to grow. Rashawn, I thought, was the victim of just being beside success. When you're directly beside Rai Benjamin, and then beside Benjamin was Varholm. So you saw that, he was keeping up with Benjamin, but then your mind starts to tell you, oh, wow, that means that I am in the placing. So you saw in that last 100, he started to lose a bit of his form and was really trying to get there because he thought, oh, I'm in the medal contention. And for the women's 4x1, it's just one of those things. These four women didn't have a lot of time to prepare together, obviously, because some being flown in, Shelly and Sharika not being available. So overall, it's a decent day. Obviously not a great day, but nothing to be too sad about. When
you look at everything, like I said, I think we can all agree it wasn't a bad day. I mean, no medals, but when you look at the age group, you have traveled to a lot of these global championships, Low. For me, I like to see youngsters coming through the ranks, so that it now allows me to think, all right, when you look at the age group of these athletes, men and women, who will be in the departure lounge soon, for today, for me, it's a big day.
Yeah. Big picture, right? Look at the big picture here, and today's results, today's performances is kind of a microcosm of the championship itself, and a kind of a peek into the future of Jamaica's track and field, right? I think as fans, we have to look at these championships beyond the medals, right? Of course,
it's hard to do.
It's hard to do that, right? Especially when
we medal them.
Yeah, but the gaining of experience is very critical, right? The level of performances, and Daniel just mentioned Jaden's performance today. That would have gotten him on the podium at most championships. Yeah. And so you have to look at all of these things and take them into perspective. We had two very young athletes in the 4x1 today who you would expect will be a big part of the story of our female sprints going forward in the years to come, right? And then I know that across the nation, across the diaspora, there's a little bit of disappointment because over the years we're so accustomed to winning medals in specific events.
Yes.
And you know what's happening now? Jamaica's track and field is maturing. And I think as fans, we also have to mature in just the way that we assess our performance at these championships.
I think they usually mature after the dust settles.
Yeah, we are perhaps not necessarily a country that is overly dependent on sprint medals anymore.
Yeah.
We are now seeing diversity in our performances. And we are now developing and matriculating into a more, let's say, dynamic or diverse or complete track and field program. And that is something that we really ought to be proud of and celebrate, right? And again, you mentioned, I was doing some math earlier and just looking at the individual medalists at this championships, and we still could get at least another one, right?
Yeah.
Right now, our average age is about 25.3 in terms of individual medals.
Yes.
In the last 4 years, I think only the 2012 medalists had a younger average age.
Yeah.
And so that is something to consider. These are athletes who are gaining valuable experience, and we will see the result of that in a year or two.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a sweetener into it. It has nothing to do with, what would have happened today. And I'm going to start with you again. People, him travel out the world for the major championships till him tired and decided to stay here with us for Paris today.
Get older now.
The conversation regarding the absence of Usain Bolt since his retirement, the sport has become more exciting because it's unpredictable. What's your view?
I mean, that's a school of thought, right? And I respect that school of thought, but I don't necessarily agree with it, right?
Yeah.
Certainly, we're seeing a wider scope of, you could argue seeing a wider scope of performances, right? But is that down to athletes getting better?
Yeah.
Down to the absence of Bolt, or is it down to the technology that's now available, right? I was speaking to a Puma rep some time ago, and they did say that Bolt would have run 9.4 in these new third gen spikes. I think certainly what Bolt has done for track and field is something that we're immeasurable. We're still benefiting from that. He has inspired a generation that is now on the track competing. Yeah. All of these Noah and all these folks, whether they want to admit it or not, they were inspired by Bolt, right? He's someone who also brought the sport to an international level, a global level.
He had people looking, because really and truly, when you look across Europe, people do love track and field, but it became more than just a sport for them. They saw someone that was charming, entertaining, when he hit the track.
Yeah, and he certainly moved the bar.
He did.
Right? And allowed for, inspiration for others to push themselves to that level where we're now seeing
everyone want to get on that level.
Running 9.7 and stuff like that. We weren't seeing that level of performance before Bolt. And so his impact in this sport is immeasurable. It's unmatched. And I think it's narrow-sighted.
Yeah.
Let's use that word to suggest that the sport is in a better place because of him. The sport is where it is.
I don't disagree.
The sport is where it is
because of him. What's your view?
Yeah, I think people want a next Bolt personality, which is what Noah Lyles have been trying to do, but I don't think he's been successful, because if you look on the sport on a whole, we have a lot of superstars right now.
Yeah, Sidney McLaughlin,
because they aren't, the same type of athlete that Bolt was in terms of his signature pose in dancing and all those things. Because even when you look on somebody like Mondo Duplantis, who has broken the world record every year for the last 4
years. Yeah.
Sydney, as you mentioned, you had Yulimar Rojas, who unfortunately missed out this year. Even if you look on the 200 meters, Tiboga running 19.45 is not a normal time. The reason why we probably don't talk about it more is because Usain did 19.19, right?
And 19.30, yeah.
We've had these special performances time and time again over the last few years. So the sport is definitely better from a technical aspect. I don't think we'll ever see anyone like Bolt again. People will try and people will fail. But technically, the sport is better than it was.
I think it's also fair to argue that it's because of both performances and his just remarkable achievements. look how difficult it is for athletes to win back-to-back gold medals at Olympic Games, right?
Yeah.
But they did
Three times. Three-peat.
That's what I'm saying. I think it is because of these levels of success that we are seeing let's say the advent of other stars, because there's better storytelling now. All the media houses are spending larger budgets to go out and find the next star and tell their stories. All the shoe companies are investing more and more in track and field, and that greater spend, that greater availability of resources allows these athletes to do more and prepare better for these championships. So I'm saying his impact on the entire ecosystem is something that we have overlooked a lot and doesn't get spoken about as often.
And for me personally, you know, just to close out, like I said, it was just a sweetener. Who you saying was on the track? You know, set aside how fast he was. His charisma is not something that was taught. No, it's
organic.
It's natural. He looks forward to the competition. You feel it when he steps out, which is why when he had that false start, you know, everyone was like, oh, you felt it was just that kind of moment. Like I said, that was a sweetener. Now we are going to the last day of track and field at the Olympic Games. And guess what? We have a representation in the women's 100-meter sprint hurdles with Akira Nugent. She's out in lane 9, which I'm very happy about because I think she can get onto the podium. And we have the women's 4x4. I'm going to start with you, Lo, to summarize both of those events as we look to tomorrow.
Honestly, I think Akira has a very, very good chance to get on the podium. The only athlete this year who has been more consistent, I would say, is Russell Masai, the young American. And she's obviously a major threat, just looking at her consistency this year. But she's just as inexperienced as
Akira, yeah. Because Akira was at the World Championships last year.
Yeah. But then, you know, Jasmine Camacho Quinn, she's the older head in this field. And
she stepped up and looked good this morning.
Right. And the thing with her, though, as often as we have seen her win when she's supposed to, she has also not delivered at times as well. And it's one of those races where I think there are 3 or 4 people who have a legitimate chance of winning this race. I believe the faster the race is, if we go down to 12.2s, 12.3s, I can definitely see Masai or Akira on top of the podium right now. If we get into 12.4s, then you know, Jasmine comes into play a little more.
I don't gamble the sprint hurdles. I normally watch for fun and hope that our Jamaicans come out on top. But for you, last regarding the 4x4 for our women, looked good in qualifying.
Yeah, USA a step above everybody else, and then it's us, France, Great Britain, 3 or 4 teams that
Netherlands
for the next 2 medals. Again, I think we have a very good shot. It would be nice to close out the championships with 8 medals, which brings us just one short of Tokyo, and really put things in perspective there, right? But yeah, I think again, just like in the 110, we do have a really, really good shot in the women's
4x4. Daniel?
Yeah, in the 4x4, I think the US women are, you know, the outright favorites to do 3:21. Far ahead of the field is going to be very hard to even challenge. But when you look at the rest of the field, Great Britain, France, Netherlands, etc., especially when, you know, I think Femke Bol is coming out with a bit of a vengeance because she didn't get that silver. So it's going to be tough. But after seeing how the women looked really comfortable today, and then, you know, anything is more than possible. In the hurdles, you know, obviously Akira is a huge talent. We've seen her this year going sub 12.3, but it is a very competitive field. That's the one thing about the 100-meter hurdles. Like, any one of those 8 women can win. Even Alaisha Johnson this season, who has improved gradually. Grace Stark has also been very impressive. So I definitely think that if things go her way, she'll definitely be on the podium. It could be any one of the medals, to be very honest with you, but she has a very good chance on getting that podium.
I'd like to hear your thoughts, though, on the 4x4.
On the 4x4, I thought the ladies looked good this morning. For me, at this stage, based on everything that would have unfolded with Team Jamaica, but I was glad to say we're in the finals. And at this point, Yeah, like you all, I'm hoping and watching. And just pray to them come home and, who can go make some money on the circuit for the rest of the season, which, is a big thing, which we'll talk about in our final show tomorrow. But yeah, I think that we are within the silver and the bronze medal position of the women's 4x4 tomorrow.
For sure.
The sprint hurdles, Akira, I just want you to do it. I'm just watching. I don't gamble. I don't talk about the sprint hurdles. It's too unpredictable. But guess what? We are happy that you have stayed with us. This is our penultimate show of Paris today, and we have one more to go. Share your comments, share your views, and tell us, do you think we will, walk away with 8 medals come tomorrow? That's all the time we have on Paris today, powered by Flo. I'm your host, Rashana McGowan, and thanks to my lovely duo, Daniel Blake, Andre Lowe from the Jamaica Observer, for joining me once again. We're out until tomorrow.